Hello there guys, welcome back. FMU here on the FMScout channel. So today we've got a little bit of a silly but also kind of interesting experiment. This is going to be a small series I'm going to be doing called FM16 Swap Shop. And basically what I've done today is, you know how a lot of us say about Arsenal, Chelsea, Man U and Man City, oh, I could do that job, anybody could do that job. Well, today we're going to kind of find out if anybody can. Okay, we're going to simulate a season, and basically what I've done is I've swapped the managers of Arsenal, Chelsea, Man U and Man City with the managers of the current real-life top four teams in the Vanarama National League. So what that means is basically at Arsenal, Cheltenham's Gary Johnson is in charge, and at Cheltenham, Arsene Wenger's in charge. Okay, Chelsea. Adrian Pennock was the Forest Green manager, so now Jose Mourinho is down at Forest Green. At Manchester City, we've got Chris Moyes, who's the Lincoln manager. He's now the Man City manager. Pellegrini is at Lincoln. And last but by no means least, at Manchester United, we have Paul Hurst, and Louis Van Gaal is the Grimsby manager. Louis Van Gaal in Grimsby. What a wonderful, wonderful thought that is. So we're going to simulate a season and have a little look and see how these guys get on in the Premier League. Can anybody manage these players? Can anybody manage these teams? Or is it all a case of we vastly underestimate the guys in charge? And secondly, can the big boys who apparently are the best managers, some of the best managers in the Premier League or in the world or whatever you want to call it, can they cut it down in the old Conference Premier? So without further ado guys, let's get this season simmed and then we'll have a little look at all the teams and see how they all get on. Okay then guys, we're back. The first season has been simmed and I've purposely not looked at it myself so we can learn together what has gone on. So let's, without further ado, go and have a little look and see how these boys have got on. So we'll start off with Arsenal, and instantly you can see they are second in the league, so they finished runners-up in the league. So that's not bad going at all. Gary Johnson's had a very decent season. So let's have a look at his transfers first of all, see who he's brought in. So Felipe Anderson's come in, Joan Bernard has come in, and Chi Nunley, or is that Nunley? I'll leave that up to interpretation. So they've spent quite a bit of money, to be fair. You know, they've done all right. They haven't sold, mate, apart from Monreal, who's gone to Shakhtar. That's about it. But apart from that, it's only been loans. So he's brought in, I mean, Felipe Anderson is a very good player. We all know that. He's very decent on FM. So they've brought quite smartly, to be honest. And if we have a little look at how they did in the FA Cup first, they won the FA Cup. They actually beat Manchester City, so we know for a fact now that Manchester City didn't win the FA Cup. That's one trophy we can rule those out of. A 2-2 draw after 90 minutes, and then they won on penalties. So Felipe Anderson getting sent off there as well. So Peter Cech only got 5.8 in that game. That's pretty poor. So we know that Gary Johnson's won one trophy and finished runner-up. They lost the Community Shield to Chelsea. Theo Walcott with their goal in that. Falcao scoring for Chelsea. And in terms of the Capital One Cup, they were beaten in the fourth round by Tottenham. That must have hurt. And the Champions League, they're into the final. So we're going to have to sim forwards and see if they win the Champions League. But they've got Barcelona in the Champions League final. So Gary Johnson has done a very, very successful job at Arsenal. He's done fantastically well. Really, really well. Let's have a look at his record for this season. Okay, so Arsenal, he's got 60 games in charge, 41 wins, 11 draws and only 8 defeats. 113 goals scored, 48 conceded, 68% win percentage, and one cup won, could possibly become 2. And he spent £49 million on 3 players, so I'd say Gary Johnson's been a bit of a success if we're honest. Second in the league, Champions League final, Capital One Cup. Didn't do brilliantly in, but they've won the FA Cup and lost in the Charity Shield final. So I think it's safe to say it looks as if Gary Johnson in terms of trophies is the most successful so far. So let me just skip ahead and we'll see if they can win that Champions League final. As many of us would have probably predicted, Barcelona were just a bit too strong for Arsenal. It was 1-1 after 90 minutes, but Neymar and Suarez finished it off. So unfortunately for Gary Johnson, he didn't win the Champions League in his first season, but according to FM16, Gary Johnson can finish second, reach a Champions League final, win the FA Cup in one season in charge of Arsenal. So let's move on now to Chelsea. You can see from the top, Chelsea won the Premier League. So Adrian Pinnock, the Forest Green manager, can win the Premier League with Chelsea, according to FM16. So we know how they've done in certain competitions, but we'll just have a little catch up and have a little look. So they were actually beaten by Manchester City in the third round of the FA Cup. So they didn't even make it past one round in the FA Cup, so they'd have been very disappointed with that. Obviously, they won the Charity Shield against Arsenal. In the Capital One Cup, they won that as well. They beat West Ham 2-1 in the final. Diego Costa and Pedro with the goals in that. And in the Champions League, they made it to the quarterfinals, where obviously we know they were beaten by Arsenal. So that's an interesting one. But as far as the Premier League is concerned, they've won it. I'm purposely holding back on looking at the table until the end, so we can have a little look at the Premier League table at the very end. So Adrian Pinnock, in his time in charge of Chelsea, he's played 56, won 38, drawn 8, but he's lost 10. That's quite a lot of losses, to be fair. Scored 114, conceded 50, and a win ratio of 67%. And he spent £34 million on 5 players, and he sold, obviously, John Obi Mikel. So let's have a look at the transfers and see who he spent his money on. Did he buy wisely? He must have done. They won the Premier League. Okay, he has actually brought quite wisely, to be fair. He's done all right for himself there. Some classic signings. De Sciglio from AC Milan is always a good sign. Doesn't get many games, I've noticed, when the big Premier League teams buy him. He doesn't get many games the first couple of seasons. It tends to be a bit later on. He picks up the games. Valencia, Gary Neville's Valencia picked up John Obi Mikel. So in terms of transfers, he's brought rather cleverly. Very cleverly indeed. Let's have a look at the squad. 36 goals. That is crazy. 36 goals from Diego Costa. That is absolute madness. And then we've got Loic Remy with 12, 17 for Falcao. That's crazy. No disrespect to him, but it is. Who's top of the assists? Why isn't it? That's a bit bizarre. Matic top of the assists, and Hazard is second. So interesting. Very interesting. So Chelsea win the league and the Capital One Cup. But obviously, FA Cup was a disaster. Champions League, they reached the quarterfinals. So now let's move on to Manchester City. Oh dear. Manchester City are managerless, which does not bode well. So they finished third in the Premier League, okay? And in terms of managers, Chris Moyes was sacked on the 22nd of May. So just after the end of the season, they sacked Mr. Moyes. So let's just have a little look and see how he got on. He had 53 games in charge of Manchester City, 32 wins, 10 draws, 11 losses, 104 goals, 59 against, and a 60% win ratio. He only brought one player in his time at City, which is interesting, for 9.2 million, and sold 2 players. So he brought Lucas Prato. He was the guy he picked up, who only ended up he didn't even play a lot, to be fair. 13 appearances, 4 goals altogether. That's not great, is it? Let's be honest. And let's have a go back and a little look at the fixtures and see what they did. So as we know, they lost the FA Cup final. The Capital One Cup, they were beaten in the third round by Liverpool by 3-1. In the Champions League, they only made it to the first round knockout stages and were absolutely spanked by PSG. Interestingly, Van Gaal Di Maria put in one of the nails in the coffin for Man City there. So a third place finish for City. Not a great season at all. And that's ultimately what led to the sacking of Chris Moyes. So let's now have a look at the final of the Premier League teams in Manchester United, and then we'll go and have a look and see how the managers from these clubs gone down in the Conference Premier. So Manchester United sacked their manager as well. Carlo Ancelotti is in charge at Manchester United now, and they finished 4th in the Premier League. We know they've had a trophyless season. We've seen that from what the other squads have done. So let's just have a quick little look and just see where they did get up to. FA Cup 4th round, they were beaten by Newcastle in a replay by 1-0 at Old Trafford. In the Capital One Cup, they got to the 4th round where Leicester beat them by 3-2. And in the Champions League, they were beaten in the first knockout stage by Atletico Madrid, despite being 1-0 up from the first leg through Wayne Rooney. They lost 3-2 on away goals as well. They lost thanks to Martinez, Gabby and Fernando Torres. So, let's have a little look and see how Mr. Hurst did in charge. Not well enough, clearly. 43 games in charge, 25 won, 11 drawn, 7 defeats, 73 goals for, 36 again, a 58% win ratio. So he spent a record fee for himself of £24 million on Saido Berahino, who got 13 goals in the Premier League altogether, but for Manchester United he got 8 of those, so fairly decent, I guess. We'll have a little look at their transfers now and see who else he brought in. So he brought in Jan Maat from Newcastle and Felivi from Watford. That's interesting. Michael Felivi or Mikel Felivi. Sounds like it should be Mikel the way his surname is, but it's obviously Michael. But he's brought him in. Obviously, he's not played in the first team in the league. He's made a couple of FA Cup appearances, but he looks decent. Even though we've got attribute masking on, he looks pretty damn decent. In terms of outgoings, PSG picked up Marouane Fellaini, which is interesting. It's an interesting one, to say the least. But apart from that, I mean, he's brought quite well with Berahino. I mean, he's brought in Saido Berahino, who we all know can be a bit of a complainer at times. But it's quite a decent signing, to be fair. You know, you can't really argue with it. It's an okay signing for Manchester United. A lot of the big clubs are after him, so, you know, it makes kind of sense. So in terms of the Premier League table, Leicester finished bottom. Out of those guys, all 4 of them finished in the top 4, but only 2 of them kept their managers, and that was Chelsea and Arsenal. The 2 Manchester clubs have gotten rid of theirs. So that's interesting to see. Diego Costa, top goal scorer, Giroud and Sanchez following it up. Juan Mata, average rating and assists leader. De Bruyne is in there for the average rating and assists, and Aguero for average rating, and Aaron Ramsey for the assists. Player of the matches, we've got Mata, Aguero and Charlie Daniels, interestingly. Clean sheets, Peter Cech, Courtois and De Gea. And then yellow cards, we won't worry about that. But yeah, so they've done okay. I mean, obviously these 2 guys got sacked, but in all fairness, they did finish in the top 4. So it's kind of it's kind of okay. But does that answer the question, could anybody manage at least Chelsea and Arsenal? Because Pennock's won the league, and Johnson's finished second and had a great season in the trophies. So I suppose in one way or another you could say maybe, but this is FM. You know, we could run this again, there'd be completely different outcomes. But let's have a look now at how the other guys have got on quickly in the conference. We won't go into quite as much detail with those, but we'll just have a look and see how they've done in the Vanarama National League. And to be honest with you, it hasn't gone very, very well, especially at Lincoln. They finished 18th, and in fact they have got rid of, was it Pellegrini, wasn't it, who was there? He got sacked. Manuel Pellegrini got sacked from Lincoln City. Wow. 30 games in charge, 6 wins, 9 drawn and 15 defeats, 20% win percentage. He signed 5 players for them but could not muster a penny to sign. So it would have been the first 5. So Howard, Devante Jacobs, Beckles, Summerfield and McKinnon would have been his signings. Wow. And then the loan signings that have come in. My lord, he has not had a good time of things, has he? Not had a good time of things at all. And they finished 18th. So Pellegrini got the sack. Simple as that. Let's have another little look now at the Forest Green situation. Jose Mourinho is still in charge at Forest Green. They finished 8th in the league. Not particularly brilliant, but but far better than what Pellegrini fared. So let's have a little look at Mourinho's season stats at Forest Green. 55 games played, 25 won, 17 drawn, 13 losses, 82 goals for, 67 goals against and a 45% win ratio. He's brought no players but at a value of 4.8k. That makes very little sense to me, to say the least. So let's head back and have a little look and see what the transfers are all about. It's obviously loan stuff. So he's brought quite well for the lower leagues. Sure, Stephen Rigg is a decent player to get on loan. Jordan Slew gets a lot of goals in the lower league. So he's brought quite cleverly, to be fair. And in terms of the trophies, I know he's won one, and he's won the FA trophy. So Jose Mourinho has managed to finish 8th in the league and pick up the FA trophy, which ain't bad going, I guess, for that sort of team. So Jose Mourinho's been okay. He's done all right down there, hasn't he? Now, Grimsby, Louis Van Gaal's Black and White Army, they finished in 4th place, and they've actually gone up via the playoffs. They've just beaten Tranmere by 1-0 in the playoff final. So Louis Van Gaal's got them promoted, which is, good for him. Fair play to him. So let's have a little look at his record for the season. 52 games, 23 wins, 19 draws, 10 defeats, 77 goals scored, 56 conceded, and a 44% win ratio. And obviously there it's got promotion. And he's brought 4 players in terms of normal transfers, so permanent deals. So he's brought in Tom Paul, Jamie Lowry, who's quite decent at this level, to be fair. Paulo George is a former Blackburn trainee, I believe. Yep, that's the one. He's fairly decent at that level. And Stephen Elliott, who's a veteran defender, is it? Oh no, veteran striker. It's the other Stephen Elliott I'm thinking of. So he's in there, and then his loan signings have been quite clever. Junior Mondale's decent, and Janae Gordon and Kwame Thomas. So he's brought quite cleverly, and he's got them promoted. Hasn't won the league, obviously, but he's won the playoffs, so he's done very, very well for them. And last but by no means least, Cheltenham, who lost in the playoffs. Arsene Wenger still there, but they lost to Louis Van Gaal's Grimsby in the playoffs. So let's have a little look at Arsene's little record for the season. 51 games, 23 defeats, 14 draws and 14 losses, 93 goals for, 69 conceded and a 45% win ratio. And it says he's signed 2 permanent players. So let's have a look at those. Who's he brought in? Michael Liddell. He's an okay kind of player at this level. He really is. Knows the levels quite well. And he's a very decent signing at that level, so that's okay. Mads Indenfeld. Wow. Where have you come from? Was at Southend. AB. Used to play for AB. Wow. Got quite a decent career in Denmark, to be fair, by the looks of things. And he's the only other signing. And then they've brought in on loan Ryan Lord, Josh O'Hanlon and Elliot List. So, all in all, Van Gaal, Mourinho and Wenger have done okay, I suppose, in lower leagues, but their management expertise hasn't won them the league, but obviously funds available to them obviously makes a bit of a difference in that, doesn't it, really? But I think they fared okay-ish. But ultimately, you'd be disappointed, wouldn't you, if you had Jose Mourinho in charge of your club, Arsene Wenger or Louis van Gaal, if you weren't winning the league, you'd be questioning their ability, I think. But and Pellegrini, how will he ever recover from being sacked from Lincoln? Not being disrespectful to Lincoln, but how would he recover from that? So all in all, I think it's safe to say probably Gary Johnson did the better, followed by A.D. Pennock, because obviously he won the league, but Johnson picked up more trophies in the season. So I think those two are probably very close leaders of the pack. And you have to say the flop of it all has probably been Pellegrini, I'd imagine, out of it all. But let me know, guys, in the comments down below, who would you class as the biggest success out of these guys? Because we're all here because of our love of Football Manager, and if you love Football Manager, we want to hear about it here at FM Scout. So let us know in the comments down below. Also, if you've got any ideas of swaps that you'd like to see done, whether it be players, managers, teams, leagues, anything like that, just let me know in the comments down below and I'll get onto it for you, maybe featured in an upcoming episode. But for now, guys, this episode of Swap Shop is coming to a close. Please hit the like button down below if this is something that you found relatively interesting and you've enjoyed the episode. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button if you've not already to FM Scout. You can also subscribe to my personal channel down below in the description, and my Twitter is also down there. If you want to follow FM Scout on Twitter, it's just at FM Scout. And my personal one is at FMU__. So until next guy, oh God, it'd help if I could speak properly. So until next time, guys, thank you very much. It's been a pleasure being in your face. Bye bye.